Well, hello there. This is Louis, aka Louis the Frentchie Manette, and you're listening to the Frentchie Talks About. All right, on today's episode, returning again is my man, Mr. Rev Fry Daddy. How are you today?
I'm dying. I'm slowly dying. I'm every day. It's just so sad that I'm just kidding, but we all dying. That's just the way it is. The end game is we die. So live this life right now the best you can. Ride it till the wheels fall off, people. What's going on?
Yes, sir, and that's why I wanted to have you back on the show because that is the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to understand, talk, and expand our knowledge. And who else better to have over for a show about a very conceptual idea? I love having conversation with you of the deeper meanings and the more the less concrete subjects.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the thing. I tell everybody you ain't got to believe me, but have a conversation. You know,
yeah,
I know a lot of things. A lot of things I don't know. A lot of things I might have heard differently, but it's something I believe in. It's like so the things you might hear tonight, they're my thoughts. You ain't got to agree with them, but think about it. It's possible.
yes, sir, and yeah, fair warning. Our thoughts, our way of thinking might not be exactly the same, but that's the purpose of the show. The purpose of the show is just to share and to take what you want from what we say, or to just make you think. Right. So no judging, just thinking on this show for me. Okay. All right. That being said, here's the subject of the day: is where do we come from? Very, very broad subject, but I'm happy to talk about it because I want to see where we go with it. So,
Right.
first question for you, Rev. For you,
Huh?
okay. Oh yeah, okay. Basically, what's your theory? Like, if you would just sum it up in the most basic way, what's your theory on where do we come from?
Our mothers. I'm being honest. I'm not. I know it sounds funny and it sounds but this is I'm going to give you my opinion on it now. Like I said, it's something I firmly believe in. I
Mm,
come from my mother. Okay, I was born from my mother's womb, giving birth, the whole 9 yards. Um, where did my soul come from? Where did my energy come from? My essence. There's a good question,
mm,
because it was just I'm just a shell inside of another shell, another meat suit. So where did my energy come from? Where did my essence, my soul, spirit, whatever you want, where did that come from? Ooh, there's a good one,
mm,
because the common theory is God made man in His image, but I'm like, yeah, but they didn't say nothing about my essence or my soul or my spirit. I'm
yep.
like, oh, what the hell's going on? It's a lot of good theories out there about heaven and hell, the creator himself, but the other gods of the old worlds. So I mean, everybody has an idea of what they believe in. At least I hope they do. I hope that everybody finds something to believe in. I don't care if you believe your chair is a deity. I mean, believe in it because you can talk to it, hang out with it. Yeah, it's a little oddball, but yeah, people want to believe in God. They want to have different religions, different sects of religion. You got the Catholics, the Christians, the Baptists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons. I mean, everybody, but they're all looking at the same end game is to go to heaven. How they
Mm,
gonna get there? Which rules to play by? Which
mm,
God said? Which part of the God said this part? They're following these rules. What to believe in? Who not to believe? So, did God create mankind? Did God create the earth? Did God, people, a lot of people believe that, and I applaud them. I tell you to believe those things. For me, I can't believe that because there's a lot of scientific information out there. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of metaphysical theories out there. So that some energy create us. Yeah, I'm sure it's a recycling situation anyway. We recycle. We're born, we die, we're born again, we die. Not just reincarnation, but we our bodies go to the ground and it fertilizes the ground. That ground grows something else, something eats that in circle of life, in the whole 9 yards. So we're a recycling system. But
mm.
are we the first ones, or are we the last ones? There's a good question. What do you think about that?
um,
What's your idea? What's your idea on where do we come from?
It's been in the same realm as you in a sense that I do completely agree that our consciousness, our capacity to think and to evolve, or even life itself, like anything we find on Earth that has life, that really touches on another realm, a realm we can't understand it, but we understand it exists. And in time, put human values to it, right? We put Jesus, or God into man's image. You can even see like a white beard, and put human values like emotion and love and deceitfulness. And there's a lot of things that we attach because that's what comes from our perspective. But if you take that away and you just concentrate on, there's an energy, there's a creature, there's something that created life as it is, or is the origins of consciousness and life. And then you have the physical part, the part that, like you said, we're meat bags, right?
Right.
We are technically, if you think about it, we have our energy in our brain is a symbiosis, it's a symbiote to our meat shell, which carries our energy, our thoughts, and who
Commands.
we are. Exactly, and who we are, right? What makes us unique. So it's something we'll probably never fully understand in our lifetime or ever, and that's why man decides they need an explanation, right? They need something that makes sense. So that's why they put their own perspectives and have multiple religions and have multiple ways of thinking. But it all stems from the base knowledge of there's something that made us and made the universe.
I got you, and that's something I've actually been working on for the past like month now. I got this theory. It's basically, getting together the metaphysical, the religions, the anybody that practice anything other than science, and getting them in a room and hashing it out. Because, long as I've been alive, I've heard about it. I've heard about it, in the old days. The idea is anybody who's of the religious faith hates witches, and they hate Satanism, and they hate anybody that's not, religious. So then I got witches mad at other witches, and I got witches mad at Satanists, and I got Satanists mad. So I got all these metaphysical people, and they got so many thoughts and ideas and beliefs, but they want to bicker amongst each other. I can almost tell you that if we can get these people back together and talk it out, we can change some shit. We got to start pointing fingers. We got to stop pointing fingers. You're evil. You're bad. You're good. You're not. No, you got to stop, because there's a lot of great ideas in everything, in religions, in spirituality, and metaphysics, and witchcraft, Satanism, secular humanism. There's great ideas everywhere, and people are just not focusing on it because they're focusing on how to be mad at each other. And that same thing going into the human world. The human world right now, everybody mad at each other, and they don't even know why. All they know is they just want to be mad because they're being told to be mad because social media says you need to be angry today. You need to be upset today. They're telling you how to feel. And people are like, yeah, that's all I feel angry at. Man, it saddens me, but I can't do anything about it except let people know that you can feel what you want to feel. You have that option. Facebook ain't gonna give you your soul. Don't let it take you. Go ahead.
And it comes down to a bit like the last conversation we had to get on the show. It's human nature to blame, to not look at their own self and just point somebody or point another reason than themselves. And it's a duality that exists for forever in humans, right? We have a good side, but when we switch bad and we cannot look inside of each other and really realize that fault is probably our own most of the time and not the other people. And how do we fix this? And we have to understand each other. Like every time we try to do that, we seem to always do 2 steps back and start another war or completely,
because we're being told to. We're being forced to. We're being forced to think a certain way, forced to feel a certain way, and we're being fed these things daily. And it is a psychological phenomenon, believe it or not. Anything on social media. Go ahead.
And this is why I don't believe necessarily in the stories you find. I find they have great value, but that's what humans do, right? They tell you what you need to believe in, and has to be this way and that way because this is the accumulation of the story so far.
That's a real good point.
And that's why I don't believe necessarily. I understand the value in those lessons, in those way of thought, because these are accumulation of 2,000 years of logic and philosophy put in a book form or in a story form. But if we really want to truly understand what God is or where do we come from, we have to separate almost everything.
There you go. There you go.
That's everything that's human thought and our normal reflexes, and push beyond the boundaries of what is normal, because out there in the universe, there's so many things that would blow our minds if we understand fully, that you can't just put in the human perspective. You have to put in the universal perspective, in the metaphysic perspective, in a quantum perspective, and then we fully understand where we come from.
Now, let me ask you this though, because I know there's always people out there that have the idea they want to, find out where they came from. The idea, the whole essence, what it was, existentialism crisis, thought, whatever. I mean, it's been so long. I knew the lingo back then. But people want to dive so deeply into that thought to figure out, where did I come from? And it's a good practice, and to go find answers. But don't let it be your main focus, though. I mean, it's a good thing to do. Keep those thoughts in mind and go travel and see what's going on. But not every answer you want is going to be there. And that's the beauty of life itself. There is no answer. It's only the journey. We know the answer. It's the journey we look at. I mean, people go. I'm a rabbit hole person, dude. I'll hit a topic and and I'll just dive deep and see where it goes. But I get myself lost on that. But same thing. The idea where we come from, where are we going? What did this creature that created us, gave us these thoughts, gave us these feelings, gave us free will? Where does this entity want us to go from there? I'm cool with, whoever made me, but where does he want me to go? Then I got to figure that out for myself, because that was the rule from jump one, right? That was the main rule in any religious-based thought or theory. The rule is God gave us free will. That means that he told us, all right, go ahead and do what you got to do.
Yeah,
but people forget, do what you got to do, but accept responsibility for what you done did.
Yeah, and going back to the beginning of what you said, and that's a cruel joke of life, right? Because we as beings are curious, right? We seek out answers and everything, and that's the cruel joke, is we are curious beings that seek out answers, but for certain questions we'll never have the answers. So it's a conundrum of we are curious, but our satisfaction will never be quenched, right?
Yeah, see there it is. Yeah, there is a way to be satisfied with your quest. I'm telling you, there is. But it's a hard thing to do. You got to go look at something else. Put it on the back burner. Go look at something else. Then come, and you might see something, a connection in that with that, But yeah, to get the ultimate answer, nah. If that's your main goal, it's going to be a long road. It's going to be hard for anybody to go find that answer. Find what you like. Find what you like, find your theory, find your idea, and base it on that, build something around that, then share it up with somebody else. Now, they might not agree with it, but then form your own answer. What I'm trying to get at, form your own answer, and still, research on what you can add to that answer.
Yeah, and I mean, and even technically, when you think about it, like the whole, what we're talking about, the whole like religion and made up by human perspective, etc. Like it or not, that's what we're doing in a way in our own theories, right? But that's what the beauty of life is that the brain is, when it's fed information, creates its own probabilities, its own story, its own foundations, and it feeds that person, right? So whatever it is with Christianism or with Buddhism, or even your own, like Rev Fry Daddy said, your own theories, because theories keep getting pushed, especially in the scientific world. Whatever that spectrum is, as long as you're doing it right, because that's the beauty of the power of the brain. And if you use it correctly, you can really, really become someone else and push the limits and have a very unique perspective. No one's going to be right or wrong in this world. Everyone has their own opinion,
right,
perspective. But what I find is important is you have a fully fleshed one, not just, what I heard multiple times, it was God's will. Yeah, but does God really have a will, or that's like the lazy explanation, right?
Right. Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah. And you know the bad thing about all this, learning and answers and questions and all that. And shame on them. I'm like, shame on them. We talk about the human condition. There are folks in this world that will use that in a negative way and
Mm,
influence somebody to do bad things. You know,
mm,
that,
mm,
and it's sad. They will gain so much knowledge and so much information, and they will use it in a such a bad light that it harms people. And
mm,
there's many of people out there. David Koresh was one of the main ones. That man knew the Bible backwards
mm,
and forwards, could, tell you every line for line, like he was in touch with God himself, and use that, to have sex with girls and
mm.
underage girls, as a matter of fact, as many as he can. That's wrong. That's wrong to do things with that kind of knowledge. You had that kind of knowledge, you could have changed the world, dude. You could influence people to do good things because I saw him. He was charismatic. He was charming. He was, well spoken. He could have used
Oh,
that knowledge, that energy, and changed the world in a positive. But he used it for his own good gotten gain.
I'll,
And
I'll
people
cut
do that, and it's a shame.
I'll cut you there because it actually puts me a question in my head to ask you. Uh, you said it yourself, right? He had the knowledge, he had the perspective, and had a duality to use it for wrong, right? Use it for bad.
Right.
Now, my question is to you that our duality, our good and bad side, using good information for using bad things, or sometimes using the bad side, but trying to use it for good things. We all have a duality. Does that duality come from us? Did our brains create that, or does that because we're an image of God, or the energy? Where does that duality come from? From us or from the
That's it.
creator?
That's a, ooh, there's a because I know a lot of popular theories, and I know a lot of research about the Akasha.
Hmm.
And people call it the Akashic field. They call it the Akashic records. I call it the Akashic web because it's part of my own belief structure. But the idea is it's everybody's consciousness in the world from before and after. I'm talking about from
Hmm.
the past and the future to present. Everybody's consciousness is entangled in this energy, and people receive energy, receive information, and they
Hmm.
also put information in. Now, does that come from a one being itself, or is that energy itself is what gave us that the
Hmm.
essence?
Hmm.
So but the idea that Hitler and Gandhi shared the same consciousness, dude, that's like hard to believe, but it happened because in the Akashic field, all consciousness comes together at one time. And I'm talking about everybody in this universe. I mean, you think about multi-universe, you think about the
Hmm.
multi-dimensionals, the interdimensional travelers, the extraterrestrial travelers. I mean, so all this conscious energy of knowledge and wisdom is in all these things, and we either receive part of it or something from there and give something back. But it's amazing to think that a lot of people share the same thought, but where did that thought come from? Where did that spark come from? Yeah, we were created in a meat suit, but our brain is our consciousness, our soul, our spirit, our essence. What started that up?
Yeah, and well, I have a theory, and I'll go on that theory later. But going back on what you said, it does make sense to me, the whole web thing, the whole sharing, right? Because it would actually explain two things that are hard to explain. The first thing is the anomalies, like let's say Jules Verne's, right, who
All right.
understood submarines before 100 years before
Oh,
someone
he was
actually.
steampunk for it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And but that came from imagination. But that also says, like, what is imagination, right? How can certain people delve into almost futuristic things and understand things before other people? Is not just they see something and their imagination runs wild. That imagination has to be based off of something, and understanding that logic, right? So
That's the Akashic field.
exactly, and it would actually explain the second thing, which is social behaviors, right? Why does when you go to one country or one place and go to the other place, it the there's like a social understanding. There's things that no one really says, but just understands it is the way it is, right? And popular practices and what is popular or not popular. That was even before social media, right?
All
These
right.
were this is a long-term thing that even when the man was in caves and everything, behaviors change from place to place depending on
Right.
your surrounding and the way of other people thinking. So for me, it explains why you are your own person, but there's places in the world that even if you're on your own person, they all have the same way of thinking.
Let me ask you that then. I'm curious. I'm asking everybody that's listening right now. You, of course. Now you got a situation like, say, you got a guy that's from Florida, never been out of the country his entire life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was raised on the beach, so he's been around surfers, that kind of lingo, the whole 9 yards, laid back, tan, and he goes to France. Now he don't know any of the customs in France, and people get mad because he doesn't know the customs. They're like, "Oh, stupid Americans." Why, instead of them getting mad about people not knowing the custom, and educate them? And I've heard that quite a bit, even like back in the day, people would go to London just because it was the place to go. Under the London Underground. I mean, in the 80s, people wanted to go to London. That's what but now they don't know a lot of the customs, so they either get picked on, beat up, or stabbed or whatever because they're outsiders. But where does that hatred come from? That same thing. People from other places come to America, and we make fun of them because, oh, you don't know our ways. Ha ha ha. Why don't we just tell them, hey, this thing what we do here? That kind of deal. But it's like it's always backed up with hatred for some reason, and it's like, man.
My answer to that is actually going back to one thing I said and furthering it more is our duality. Is
right?
Does that come from us, or does that pattern trait come from the energy that created us? But it is our duality. Is the fact that we have our own egos. We're the one of the only creatures on Earth to have an ego, right? To have a protective side and are very like just internal. This is for me, right? This is only my.
Wow, there it is. There it is.
And ego really creates that duality. But that's every human has it, right? When we live a certain way and use certain things so much. That happens to me at work, right? When I try to train someone and I forget, it's like I've been in customer service for 10 freaking years, So for me, it's easy saying like, yes, but you ask this kind of question, you want a yes or no answer. Hello, wake up. But sometimes I forget, like, yeah, it's easy for me because my brain is so wired that way. But for them to understand that, it takes a lot of time sometimes, and for the neurons to automatically click, right? And I become annoyed because my ego says this should be easy. Go ahead, I have other things to do. So that's where the duality comes from, because we don't take the time to put our perspective into their perspective and understand their ways, because it's so much easier just to judge.
Get frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get frustrated.
But I do agree, because I've seen things where going, man, what the hell are they doing that for? That don't make no damn sense, But at the same time, I was like, okay, whatever. Like the whole Tide Pod things, I understand it was a gimmick. I know it was a fad, of the trend, whatever you want to call it. I've told people, if I was 15, I would have done it myself, But I'm sitting there making fun of it. Why are they eating Tide? That's stupid, man. That's it. I'm making fun of these people for doing this, and I'm like, I would have done the same thing back then. But nowadays, I'm like, that's just wrong. I wasn't worried about people getting poisoned because I drink dish soap. Sometimes you get it when you're doing dishes, whatever, and shit. But it's like I wasn't worried about them dying. But I'm like, but people thought that was like cool, And I'm like, really? And I was like, no. So it's that duality, But I guess it was. Depends on how you look at it. It was fun. It was not fun. People had a good time with it.
Yeah, but I do see that, but differently, and it may not be, but again, it comes from my logic says no, dangerous, you can die, and what's the point? You do it,
there it is.
Like
the point is just be a jerk, be an asshole, be like, hey, look at me, I'm fun. That's what it came down to, and I get it,
but that's where my brain goes. But it's true, right? Like everyone has an opportunity in every situation to jump in a different perspective and try to understand it, try to learn it, right? But our knee-jerk reaction of saying, oh, this is dumb, this is how it should be, F you, is our brain like responding to what is essentially very hard to do, is understanding that logic, understanding that perspective requires mental energy and mental willingness to expand and to comprehend things that might not be first nature to us. So usually when we're confronted with those situations, our brain just says the easier route is to get frustrated because you're not in a state to learn. And that's why certain people eventually get haha moments, these little where your neurons create more connections. And one time, the things that made zero sense to you, everything collapses together and says, hey, this is compact. This makes sense now. Now that you were missing one branch to connect everything up. And then people have different perspective. And that's why your life changes after like, let's say I get my kid, right? I got a couple of sparks that went through, and like, I know I get my dad to have that spark, right? Something needs to happen. But normally when my dad kept saying, oh, you understand when you're a kid, son, you understand why I'm like this, my brain wasn't connecting because it was too hard for my brain to actually want to understand it. It needs a jolt, right?
A little reality check.
Yep. And that's a key word right there. You said reality. Our brains are our own reality. And that's why, I associate the energy in our brain into something that's related to the energy that God that created us. If we want to give it a name, it's God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's what I really think about interdimensional. Like, there's things that we will never comprehend, but we understand exist, like the multi-layered things of the universe that our brain just does not have the capacity to fully understand. And that energy in our brain is connected to those dimensions, to those expanded knowledge that we'll never get.
You ever heard the term, or you know what the people are? They're called psychonauts. You ever heard of them?
Maybe not the term, but maybe the logic. What is that?
Basically, it's people that, it started a while ago, but people still do it nowadays. And they know what they're doing. People will say they are, but not really are. But basically, the idea is to take hallucinating drugs such as mescaline, mushrooms, LSD, MK Ultra, what's the new shit out nowadays? People DMT and or Molly's, whatever. And people would travel in their minds and try to cross dimensions. And that's what they go on a scientific metaphysical journey as they're doing hallucinating drugs to tap into the other side. So they try to find knowledge from and that's what they do. And I've been there myself. I've been involved with LSD quite a bit through my lifetime. I'm a big fan of it. I'm not one of those like, oh, look, flying dragons. No, mine's the, what's inside my brain, what's inside me, what's on the other side. That's why I do my things. But yeah, it's a fascinating study. And even like, scientists are trying to, encourage people nowadays to do microdose with either mushrooms or LSD, just small amounts, because it makes your neurons, fire, connect, whatever. But if you take too much of it, yeah, you're definitely going to have a situation where you got to either think you don't cross the other side, or was it a, bent reality, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, I can't say there's no other doorway because I've seen too much shit myself.
And it goes a bit like what you're saying, with what I'm saying too, in a sense, because our brain, if you want to compare to something, it almost feels like when you were trying to use like an X-ray or a machine per se and detect matter or certain like elements of the periodical table in space, right? So there's ways to see like color or a certain heat signature, and if you adjust that equipment a certain way, you can detect certain elements. You do it a certain way, you can detect a certain X-rays or rays, right? And
right.
It's all done by like one base machine that you can tweak. Same thing for your brain. Your brain creates your reality, right? There's what we see in the default mode of our brain, which is no alteration, just how we're born, right? But you have medication, you have drugs, you have things that you can tweak slightly.
Right. You can alter.
Exactly.
Adjust. You can adjust.
Sometimes it goes awry, right? It's a very, very balanced thing. You adjust it too much, and after a while you can't go back, right?
Right.
But there's ways to adjust and create different ways of thinking that expand someone and really completely changes the way they live, and that's why mushroom is sometimes associated to battle like depression, because it gives you the chemical balance you need. But also during that buzz, I've took mushrooms multiple times in my life, and there's times I'm like, I understand what I have to do now, and I do it, and it's like
yeah. That's the thing. I when I haven't done it in a while, but when I do it, I plan it. I'm old now, so I plan out to make sure I got drinks and water and something to do. I mean, there's no more spontaneity, so I go into this, and I call it my next day is my reboot. I recap on what happened the night before, and I think, what do I got to do next? It's like my reboot.
Yeah, and again, it's funny, huh? Like the brain, you can tweak it and create a new reality, and that shows how much we still don't understand it, and we'll probably never will. But the other side, the other thing I wanted to talk about, now we have talked about like the energy in that aspect, and you said it yourself, right? If that whole shared web of energy is connected through the past and now the future, and maybe the multiple other beings or creatures that share the same web of thought and energy. So technically, if there's other beings, there's aliens, right? Because that is
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a given. That's a given. I mean, they're not no ET or the predators and shit, but yeah, they're out there. They're out there.
My question to you is: are they asking the same question if they're alone than us? Or
I think it's pretty cool to have a thought like, hey, do aliens have depression? Are they thinking about where they came from? No, I mean, it's honest, to come up with those kind of questions. I'm like, that's some good shit. I watched a show last night, and this little girl asked her father, "Daddy, do animals commit suicide?" And I was sitting there going, "That was what?" And I never thought about that in my entire life. Is it possible that animals have that, depression so bad that they can't go on living and they take their own life? I mean, that's a weird. We don't think about it because we're humans. We're the superior beings. We're the top of the food chain. We don't care about what they think. Just, hey, bring me the paper and let me throw the ball at you and shit.
Yeah, but and I personally think they do, because I've seen or heard cases of like cats being so depressed when, like, let's say one of the masters pass away,
right?
You don't really comprehend what's happening. They starve themselves to death.
Right? Oh, I know. I know for a fact they do. Yeah, they will do all kind of things, and believe it or not, and it's gonna sound funny, dude. Think about this: you get a goldfish bowl. That goldfish swims around 3 or 4 times. It jumps out of the water. It didn't jump out because it wanted to jump. He knew it with no water out there. It's funny, but I'm like, myself, I like to think about things like that because it's a deeper thought of, hey, we ain't got no coins going on right now, or people got to wear face masks, or we're all gonna die. I can think about other things. I'm sorry.
But it's interesting because it kind of relates to what I'm saying, right? It's taking human concepts we created for our own sakes and seeing if they would apply somewhere else, if they would have the same circumstances instead of life to have exactly those type of thoughts. And that's where my mind frame came from, is, do they have the same questions of them on their planet, in their solar system, in their ways of living life? Do they go, are we alone? Is there anyone else there, or did he actually found a way to visit us or to understand we exist? I personally don't think so. I think we're all in the same boat. I think traveling to another planet that has life is not possible. The theories they're saying, like all folding space and trying to, it's cool probably on paper, but it's that type of thing you mess around with, you'll create a freaking black hole, or something's gonna happen. We're not meant to manipulate that, right? And probably never.
What about wormholes though?
But that's why I'm saying these are things that probably exist, but we're not meant for living creatures of energy in meat bags or whatever you want to call us, to manipulate or are actually use as a tool. They just are, things of the universe, the nature of the universe, but not necessarily made for us to play around with. So I don't think it's possible to ever visit other creatures, but I really do think that there's ways for maybe them to understand we exist, because they have, we sent satellites for a reason, right? To have contact,
right,
with other beings, and we never know, but we might actually reach them in like 30 million years, because it's always going to travel, right? Things don't degrade just like that in space. There's
right,
unless you go directly into a star or something. But that being said, there's probably still ways for other creatures to understand we exist but never really communicate with us.
Really? You don't think they can actually? No. You don't think that we've been visited? We have not made communication. You don't think they're actually here now? You don't believe that, or think that way?
I believe we probably had instances of universes colliding with each other, meaning like dimensions, and there's like the weird things we can't explain. I think it's more related to the fact that it's quantum, right? It's the weird web of phasing in, phasing out, but having an actual other planet, which probably has its own multiple parallel universes, but so distant and far away that we can never probably have actual contact with them.
It's always an accident. like the idea of cross reality streams. We got say 7 reality streams running perpendicular to each other, parallel, the whole 9 yards, and every now and then it shifts over and they cross over. Then you see something from the other side, and you go back to your reality, like, hey, I just saw something. What was that? That. So I mean, but to see it all, no, I'm just glad that it's there. That's the way I look at it. I'm just glad that it's there because it gives me something that things can happen. And I look for those things to happen. I'm like, hey, what's going to happen next? And sometimes they don't. I'm like, I gotta go do something else.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to segue to another question I have for you. Just
go ahead.
It's kind of sparked up, and we can re-relate it to the subject, but it's something that's interesting to me. I had this concept a couple years back. When you really think about it, for me, that's the only way we can actually achieve it. When people say, "Oh, time travel will exist one day," or time travel already exists, and you can go back and forth, right? For me, it's a flawed concept, or for something we're already doing in a sense. I don't think traveling back in time is possible. I don't think you can actually manipulate time in that way. But what we don't realize we're actually doing right now is when we think about nostalgia, memories, right? And that's why sometimes it's easy to get lost in thought. It's the only way that we're technically time traveling in the past is by thinking about memories, because time is something that we don't fully understand, right? Especially mixed into our just normal day-to-day lives. And when we actually reminisce or go have things that trigger things that make us think in the past, and sometimes it's almost crystal clear, we're almost there, right? We're in the moment. I think that's the only way for us to actually travel back in time. It's in our own minds, because we have a starting point, we have something to go back to, which is impossible to go forward to because we've never been there with our brains. But something we already live in our own life, something we already live in our own heads and have a point we can go back to in our own brains. That's time travel. That's going back to the past.
Yeah, I have agree on that. Now, I when I talk about time travel to people, I always make sure you remember that it's not just time travel; it's bending space. I try to remind people of that you're not just going from one point to another point. You're actually bending space. You're connecting 2 points at a same time to go through that time travel. So yeah, for us to build a machine to travel to a past point and change something from the past, I mean, is it possible? I think it's very possible. I think it's been done before by accident, but now to try and travel forward, it's so much easier. Because it's more like a slingshot, So no, but here's my thing though. People believe in the past lives, trying to figure out their past lives. Me, myself, personal thing is I believe I am my past life of my future self.
Okay, say that again.
Okay, you know about deja vu and reincarnation and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the idea is everybody always wants to find out what they were in their past lives. But me, myself, right now in this current time, sitting here in my living room, I am the past life of my future self. So there's a future self right now thinking about what his past life was. And I'm like, asshole, don't look at the past, go to the future. So that's just, I don't look at what I was. I've been there. It was a great time in my life to look at, where I came from and who I could have been, or was I a general? Was I a warrior? Was I, a slave or a cook or, whatever? Was I a dog? Was I an ant? Those are cool concepts, but I'm thinking now that's not going to change where I am now. So I got to figure out how to change the future, but I'm not the future. I'm only the present. So I am the past life of my future self. Yeah, I know it's a wild concept, but that's things that I think about,
And that's why I believe, like, again, no one's right, no one's wrong. It's you create your own reality and your own concepts. And
my narrative. Yeah,
exactly. When you create your own narrative, you create the possibility. That's how the universe works, I think. When you think about it, you create it. And when you create it, the possibility is possible. There's things that are more improbable. Like if I create the fact that I'm going to become Britney Spears tomorrow, probably not going to happen. But there's certain things.
Right.
The more you put brain energy to it, and more that opinion or that way of thinking becomes popular, more it becomes real in a sense, right? That being said, something I want to go back to what you said a bit about time travel, and I'll re-ask you my question. You said, like, is it possible to create a machine to go back?
No. People are, that's the idea is to create a machine or a device
Yeah.
in order to travel through time. That's always been, the popular theory. But to actually use the subconscious or your brain or your essence to travel, that is the best way to go, because that's where everything happened.
But that's what I was going to, like. So basically, you're saying it's quantum leap.
Oh, no, because I don't. Well, now it's a possibility. I mean, could it be that we have dreams? Okay, we have thoughts, whatever, because somehow one of ourselves has traveled back from the future to pop in our head. So if we were to time travel in your theory in our dream state or in a subconscious to our past, we'll end up in our former brain. So we'll have a thought about that. Oh, that's a good concept.
Yeah, because we have a machine, right? Our machine is our brain, like you said. That's the machine we need. And if is a quantum entanglement of energy that connects with time itself, you can use that energy to travel into those webs, into whatever's connected genetically to you. Or if we're all connected to each other, it could be randomly. If we're all in the same source of a seed source, we can probably travel to anything in the future and past, right? But it all stems from our brain and the energy found in our brain. And again, if that energy is connected to God or to whatever created us, it created time, it created all the dimensions we have. So it's so multi-layered, but yet always so connected to the same thing.
So let me ask you this. I'm curious. So I think I got you right. So the idea that a person can time travel to the past and be two people at the same time is not possible. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Exactly. Like if you're conscious,
like Back to the Future, Marty ran into his past self, in part 2. So it's not possible for a human being to go to the past and be in the same space as your counterpart.
Exactly, because
and I agree with that.
Your body doesn't travel in time. Your consciousness does, because your consciousness is what's connected to what you said, the web, right? That's the easier part, because if you try to travel back your time with your body is such a frail thing, and your body does not necessarily go with the mechanism of time travel. Time travel is a quantum thing, right? It has to it has to be neutrons or something more energy based. And if you try to do it with your body, there's so many things that can go awry. So the easier thing to do is take consciousness and travel back or travel forward, but your body stays there.
Now, what about inanimate objects? Let's say like a regular shoebox. Can you send a shoebox to the past? Because in the past, a shoebox was never created.
No, because that's the physical aspect. To travel, To travel time, you have to think about the spiritual aspect, right? My question, trying back to you though, is could we send an animal back in time?
Be the same thing. It'd be the same thing. It's the consciousness. Animals have the same consciousness as the humans do. Only thing separates us from the animals is we can speak. Oh no, we can use words. The animals can speak. They have body language. They have voices. They have sounds. But we have words. We built a civilization. That's the only thing that separates us from the animals. So they have the same kind of thoughts and concepts. Where did I come from? Who created me? I'm pretty sure there's a snake running around going, what the freak am I doing right now? Where did I come from? Are there more like me? Am I the only one? Where am I going to go? I'm pretty sure animals have those same thoughts, but we don't think about those things because we are the superior beings.
Well, you see, I don't truly agree with you. I think that they have a certain aspect of like questioning things, but for me, most of the creatures, except for a couple of exceptions like dolphins and things that we understand now, they have their own language and their own ways of thinking. But most creatures are like, I compare my cat to like my kid, right? My kid is reacting to emotion. It's not deciding to, like you can hear right now, she's grumpy right now.
Right.
She's living that emotion. She doesn't necessarily go like this with this equals this. No, she's just, I'm hungry. The only way I know how to show you I'm hungry is I'm screaming right now. That's how animals or life works, in my opinion. They react to it, but doesn't mean that they're not intelligent or they don't have their own reasoning. But it's not based off of logic. It's based off of instinct and what they feel in the moment.
And that's the beauty of it, though, because they don't have our limitations. Our limitations are based on our ego, our human condition. That's what's, our greatest limitation is our ego and human condition. Animals don't, they live on the instinct. And if you watch an animal, dude, they're like so awesome and free and they really don't give a damn unless they got to do something. But they don't have that human condition of the ego. And it's beautiful to see that animals are not limited like we are. So to put them, for them to travel in the past, I think they have the same consciousness we have, but they are not limited like we are with the ego.
But you see, in that, I also go back to the other conversation, the other questions I had. So in that case, it like you said, right, we're the only ones that have their own egos and created that. Is that a result of human conditioning of like years and years and years of the brain evolving a certain way, or does that come from God or the energy?
There's the cosmic joke.
Yeah, because nothing else has an ego, or for what we understand, there's nothing else that has that very unique human perspective. So where does that come from? Is that a result of us, or is that a result of existence in the world, right?
Is it exalt of evolution or exalt of creation? Yeah, nice. Because now it's funny that if we did derive our thinking, our human condition from our creator, what kind of asshole does that make him? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. And don't get me wrong, I love God. I talk to Big G all the time. I love all the deities, demigods, devils. I mean, any creature out there, I talk and hang out with them. But I'm like, if I think like this and I got my thought from God, what kind of asshole is God? And I know people get mad about that, but I'm like, really? I'm thinking about that. I'm like, honestly, but that's a good concept. I like that.
And I'll bounce the theory off of you. It was something I was discussing with my girlfriend a couple of weeks back, and for even her, she was like, I've never thought about it that way. Is the concept of, usually we separate like, oh, there's God and there's the devil because good and bad, right? And they're two separate things. And if you go to one, go to the other. What if that evil, that duality, like I referred before, actually comes from the same source, right?
I've said that myself.
That energy is two sides, and that's why we have a duality ourselves. Because when life existed, it's not just one simple thing, which is it's good, right, or it's bad. It's the good and bad comes originally from that source because it's good and bad itself. It's not two separate energies. It comes from the same source.
Same thing. I make jokes about it, but it makes sense though. I tell people there ain't no God or devil. It's only one person who's got mood swings.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down. What it comes down, and people now. But my theory is, like I said, it was only my theory that people had to create an opposite, an adversary, if you will, the Satan, the devil, whatever, so they can actually have something to blame problems on. Not just their problems, but problems. People are dying, crops ain't growing. People are bad. Oh, it's the devil making them do it. But if we came from God, God gave us these thoughts and these energies and these ideas. Why are we blaming somebody else when it came from this source over here? But people don't want to blame the creator. They want something to blame, so they create an adversary. And I like I said, I understand that. I know people want to. Oh, it's evil to do this, but what's really evil? I mean, it's a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It is a matter of perspective, and we. It's a human thing to coin like this is bad, this is good, and we have like emotional weight to it, right? But if you are a creature or an energy that does not necessarily work with emotion or with logic, and it just sees it as a necessary thing, there needs to be a balance, right? You can't have just one way or the other, and doesn't have the same emotional attachment of we always have to be good and evil is bad, right?
Right. I mean, just take what you can. Just don't try to hurt anybody or hurt yourself. I mean, I ain't saying you got to love the world. I'm just saying, do what you can when you can. You ain't got to take care of everybody. Like myself, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not inspiring anybody to do anything great. I'm not inspiring people to do anything bad. But I'm letting you know that, I'm planning on buying myself a handheld crossbow and walk around Georgia because if someone gets stupid, I'm going to shoot them with a crossbow. And I found out it's legal to carry a crossbow in Georgia. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. That's just who I am. but I ain't going to try to go hurt anybody. But if you come at me, you're going to find out why I turned 50 years old, because I didn't make it this far by being, stupid. But I don't want people coming at me mad about, oh, you ain't wearing a face mask, I'm going to hit you. Asshole, I got a crossbow. What the fuck you talking about? But at the same time, I ain't going to go hunting anybody or hurting anybody. But that's just, like you say, duality. But I will defend myself.
All right. So look, that pretty much concludes, I think, this episode for today. But again, Rev, thank you very much for your time. And I can't always talk about these conceptual things to a lot of people. Some people get it, some people just not. And I think they get it and they realize they don't get it at all. And they're just being polite. But it feels good to find it equal to bounce ideas and bounce philosophies with. So thank you very much, Rev.
Yeah, man. The people out there that don't get it or they're shaking heads around and going, that guy's stupid. He don't know what he's talking about. That's cool. I accept that. I'm not saying believe in what I believe in. Believe in what you believe in. Let's talk about it. Let's hang out and talk about it. If you get mad about something I say, talk to me. Let's find out what made you mad. But I'm not going to change who I am. But I'm not going to be an asshole towards you. But I'm curious why you feel a certain way. But yeah, if someone don't get concepts of, thinking for themselves, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to force them, but I just hope that they do. I hope they find like, oh, wait a minute, that was wrong.
And if anyone out there is listening and actually found what Rev Fry Daddy said was interesting, where can we find you? I know you have your own show. Talk about that for a couple of seconds.
Well, no, okay. I started my Paranoia Playhouse about a couple months ago, and I've been slacking off lately. I've been loading things on there from different parts of the internet, but my other show, the PS You Got This, is back on the air now. We're doing that once a week, and that can be found on Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Google, whole nine yards. We're based out of Anchor, of course, but it's P.S.U. Got This, and it's spelled just like that, and you'll see the little logo and everything. And there's a couple of shows with that name, but yeah, it's three of us. We get on. We haven't talked just like this right here. And that's what I encourage people to do. Communicate, just have a conversation. And of course, YouTube. I ain't really done anything on YouTube lately, but I'm thinking about getting back on and making some funny videos because I like having fun. That's what it comes down. I like enjoying life because I've been down the dark side. I've been in, the deepest part of my darkness. And so it's like, I like to have fun, even with my dark. So it's like, but people get mad, but I love y'all anyway. It's cool with me.
Yeah, look, and again, so sometimes if you get mad about something, it's because we're touching something sensitive, and you don't have to agree with us. Just the fact that you're thinking about it, and you're able to expand yourself, no matter what thought it was. If we can do that for you, okay, I'm happy because that's what life is. Personally, is to challenge ourselves and to think about the hard things and to grow from it. So you don't have to agree with us; you just have to learn with us.
Yeah, I just my friend of mine says the best thing is the phrase is, have you considered?
Yep. All right. So thank you very much, Rev, again. Till next time. Bye-bye.